You don't get many opportunities to work right on the coast. This building is totally unique because it's coming from the ground up and responding to the landscape.
We all say this in the estate agency, you all say, oh, it's got a wow factor, but it genuinely had a wow factor. As you come through the gates and you stand there and you look at the frontage, the crispness of the property in terms of its lines, its angles, that was what struck me.
Obviously a unique location from an architect's point of view. You get here and you see the cliffs, you see the beach, and then to the other side you see the dunes. Then you've got Black Rock itself, which is quite an unusual feature that sticks up, so it's quite noticeable and it's a local landmark. The name of this place is taken from that. All those sort of things start to come together. Some of those things you absorb just by being here and living in it. As an architect, you start thinking about the shapes, but that comes almost accidentally. It's taking inspiration from the landscape, but not in that very direct way. We wanted the building to have black cladding on it because it's black rock. That's a more obvious connection to it. But primarily it was to do with the view. You've got this panoramic view of the sea, but then you've got views down the coast towards Crackington and beyond to Boscastle, and those are really high cliffs, 100 metres plus, really dramatic coastline. And then the other way, looking north, it's a different landscape again. It's a lot softer. You've got the dunes where it rolls up across into Widemouth towards Bude, and that's slightly softer. So we wanted the building to respond to that. I always think it as almost talking to each other. There's some sort of communication between them. As an architect, you try to get that sort of something in there.
It's, as an entertaining space, you've plenty of space, but it's a real focal point having the ocean just there. But as well, it's the kind of room and kind of space that sitting on your own with a cup of coffee and a book, you could just get lost in here.
This building is totally unique because it's coming from the ground up and responding to the landscape. And what I find was enjoyable is there's all these intentional things, but all of these unintentional things that you notice. The way the light falls on certain things, the way the sunlight comes in. The building itself is slightly sunken into the landscape, and hence that was the decision to do upside down living. So you can get all the best views from the main living spaces, which obviously you use during the day, and all the bedrooms on the ground floor, which are then more protected because you've got effectively a retaining wall. And that's another thing you've got to think about when you're designing in North Cornwall, is there is a lot of wind. What we wanted to create was that sort of quite linear building. The site was quite linear, naturally going down that route. So that then helps you inform the layout, but also the elevations, the form of it. It's got this sort of almost like an explosive nature you've got this central hub, which is part of this area we're sitting in here, which is the main circulation, and the forms sort of spin out from that.
What is brilliant about this house is embracing the natural tones and not just aiming for full glass. Now in the room we're in at the moment, you've got a window of the corner that is all glass. But as you go through the house, what the architects have done really well is they focus on having windows in the right place that frame things. There is areas where they've embraced dark. There are areas where they've embraced having nothing on a wall.
Corridors in linear buildings are quite difficult from a design point of view because by nature they're just functional in most cases. So you want to add some interest and some drama into it. We angled one of the walls in, so it starts off quite wide and then gradually narrows as you go down, and then there's a framed window at the end of it, bringing light in, and then you get this strange sort of experience, and then you turn around and your sense of perspective is gone. So you've just got these straight lines and it seems to be the same width all the way down. And it's quite playful, it's quite nice, and the way the light shines from that window down into those into the corridor makes something that could be quite a boring space into something quite interesting. Where the sun sets, you know, is one of the beauties of this house. If you're here at different times of year, you'll find sort of early spring and summer, the sun will be setting almost straight out to sea. By the time it gets to high summer, the sun will have disappeared way down there as it sets.
It's not trying to be everything on top of each other, seeking out over the top. It's tucked in, it looks like a sand dune. We've got the sand dunes in behind us just over there, and this looks like it forms part of the landscape.
I quite like the fact that it doesn't stand out too much. You know, you can see glimpses of it and you think, well, what's that? There's something interesting going on there. And as an architect, you're sort of always looking for that. You're always looking, wherever you go, you're always looking for that little thing that's slightly different. And that's what this building does, but it doesn't quite impose itself too much. And that's what we quite like to do with our architecture, is we respect this landscape. At the same time, we don't want to be scared of it. It's quite easy for someone to get planning permission for a typical bungalow or something like that, which can happen, and you just feel that's a lost opportunity. So, but at the same time, you've got to get that balance right of respecting what's there and making sure it does fit in, even though not everybody's going to like it. You know, you're always going to get your people who just, you know, a bit Marmite, you know, sort of approach to things. And I learned that quite early on, actually, when I was an A-level student and being asked by the careers advisor, what do you want to do? I want to go to architecture. We started talking and I was saying, I want to create buildings that everybody likes. And he said, do you think you're ever going to achieve that? And I'll never forget that conversation, because I soon realised quite shortly after that, you will never please everybody. You know, and in fact, if you can create a building that's Marmite, you've probably done something quite successful.